Welcome back. It's Matt, along with Draki, and today we're going to talk about Jamarus. Very interesting unit, but has a little bit of downsides too. So stay tuned and see why it has some great uses and some pretty big negatives. Jamarus, he's the latest Nature S unit. I know some people are a fan of Nature units, but decent attacker. But really, I think of it more of a great buffer unit, and I'll explain why. The leadership effect is a little too specific for my taste. Whoosh breath potency plus 20%. If it was 25%, I would be a little bit higher on it because I think it'd be worthwhile. But as I say, it's too specific. It really does help if you're using Jamirus as your main damage dealer. Personally, as I say, I see him as much more of a buffer, and his greatest uses as a buffer. And I'll kind of show why in a second. His first skill, though, is pretty obvious and why it's so powerful. Accelerate raising agility of all allies in area for 3 turns. If you do get Jamirus, and personally, um, all you really need is one awakening to get fully the full buffing potential out of it. What you could do is have a slightly slower team, allow them to come through, accelerate with Jamirus, and then have the opportunity as first to bring the other team turn one, and then turn two be fast enough to be able to move first, or at least some other players to move first, and you basically get a double attack on a team. And this is where I think Jamirus has its ability to be really, really strong and really, really scary. Um, for a skill effect just from that. So if you're facing a Jamirus, just be very careful with that type of strategy overall, because it's a great way to try and sneak an extra attack in to really weaken a team. And this is personally, I think, the greatest effect that you could have with Jamirus, other than its first awakening skill, which I'll get to in a second. Second skill, Cyclone Breath. Deals major whoosh type breath damage to all enemies and pulls one space closer. I'm actually not a huge fan of this skill. I do not want anything near my Jamirus. And personally, as I say, I just don't like it. The only thing that you're going to do with that is if you're willing to sacrifice Jamirus, or you need to bring the rest of the team in closer, so that then you can maybe do some very big attacks. Otherwise, I personally think this is very, very limited use overall. It requires way too much MP and puts Jamirus more in danger because biggest weakness about Jamirus is survivability. And the last one is Tempest. Deals minor whoosh breath damage to one enemy 8 times and lowers very rarely, which is 10%, whoosh resistance. If you do hit that whoosh resistance, though, he could start doing some massive damage. This is actually the best skill of the two for the attack. But as I say, for me, the most important part is about Jamirus Accelerate. And number 2 here, the Awakening, First Awakening. Odd turns until turn 10 grants all allies whoosh force. By far, the biggest skill in my mind for Jamirus. And it's in a 5x5 area, just like the whoosh breath potency leadership effect for 3 turns and 4 turns to self. Whoosh force is absolutely wonderful. It increases whoosh attack skills and your defense to whoosh by 20%. And this being automatic with the first one on every odd turn is just incredibly powerful. So if you see Jamirus and you know you've got 1 or 2 weak enemies that's to whoosh, you can almost guarantee it's a Jamirus that's going to be next to him in those battles, and your ability to hit with whoosh is going to be reduced. I know I do something similar to that with my teams. My teams are generally weak with Bang. I have Mogus. Bang Force is just being cast on them to protect them, to give them better defenses. Second and fourth is Whoosh and Bang. Nothing super special there. The third one here is a unique skill which we've seen before. Restore 200 HP and 50 NP when any unit is KO'd. This is a unit on your side or your enemy's side, and gives Tempest +5. And the fifth one, Jamirus increased breath resistance for 3 turns, first 3 turns, and Tempest 5%. All in all, the third one does make him a little bit better, but the problem is, if you look at his attack and HP and defense, it's just not high enough for being such a super high unit. Movement of 4 though, so that's why you don't see nearly as much HP and defense. And people are gonna go, "Whoa, man! Wisdom and attack are very, very low." Jamirus does all of his damage with breath. Breath, once again, in case people are new, breath damage is only based on level. But personally, as I say, my big thing is in this, I know that they're calling him an attacker, and I know why. The ability to use Tempest can do an awful lot of damage, especially with the leadership effect, and say turn 1, get Whoosh Force on Jamirus. That is just an awful lot of potential. That's 40% more breath power, which does a lot of damage overall. And on top of it, if you can reduce the overall resistance of Whoosh on top of it, that just really adds damage really quickly. And any team that has a Jamirus on it can start really getting a pretty sweet snowball effect because of that. But biggest worry, HP and defense are very, very low. So normally I would say preferred weapon, if HP and defense are low, especially on a breath unit, go ahead and just put as much HP and defense as you can here. This one, I'm actually going to disagree. I think the preferred weapon here is something that gives as much agility and breath power damage overall, and Storm Dagger does do that, along with the Tempest and Cyclone Breath, which are the skills here. Personally, though, I say focus 100% on Tempest, not on Cyclone Breath. There might be other people who use Jamirus to pull units, with the speed, etc., etc. But personally, for me, I think if I have Jamirus, if I get Jamirus, I should say, I'm going to focus on Tempest only and or agility. Even for the MP, if you're looking here, the MP 463, that's with 5th. With 1st, it's around 380, I believe. Real quick, that's enough to cast 4 of the Tempest spells and an Accelerate, especially if you can kill a unit or 2 afterwards as well, because it regenerates MP with units that you kill. I'm not too worried about MP overall. Other people might. But the agility is where Jamirus can really shine on top of the Accelerate. And playing that properly, I think, is key. So with teams, as I say, with the Accelerate gambit that I think that should be used, you really want your Jamirus to be super high agility. The only problem is for auto is because of its forward movement, it will move up very quickly, and people can tempt Jamirus into attacking. So this is going to be more for live PvP or when I mean live, real-time PvP, which will be coming soon, or when you have Jamirus, you'll be controlling for the Accelerate. Because of that, you can always tempt Jamirus in trying to attack you with the AI on that, and that would be the biggest key here in that regards for if you're facing a Jamirus in battle. Draw it away. Try not to allow it to cast Accelerate on the units there. Even if you have to sacrifice a unit, it will probably be better in that regards. Preferred learned skills, and this is actually one of the few times where the scarier part of Jamirus is if you are going to put it on defense and you're okay with it going crazy. Sweet Breath and Burning Breath is just absolutely nasty to go against, to put on with Jamirus. breath damage is, or breath capability with the breath unit is really, really key. With the low attack and wisdom, you're looking for breath skills. If you want another element for breath damage, you can do that as well. But personally, sleep and paralyze are two of the three scariest. Um, Two of the four. The other ones are confused and charm. For PvP, and Jamirus can definitely use Sweet Breath or Burning Breath with its movement of 4. That is a very dangerous addition. And this is not something that you go, maybe you really should put one of these two on Jamirus. This will greatly, greatly help. Its ability to just cause pure chaos. And just makes Jamirus a lot scarier. And I'm going to be honest, if I'm fighting a Jamirus, I am going to assume that it has one or the other on it. If I don't take a look at it closely, that is by far going to be actually my biggest worry out of it, other than Accelerate. Pros, cons, and pull. Whoosh Force itself is very, very powerful. The increasing speed of allies is incredibly powerful, especially if you tune it properly. And this also, another thing is for PvE. If you can tune speed incredibly, or agility very, very closely, and then make Jamirus, and you can do some really nasty effects on those type of enemies, along with pretty simply enemies that you're going to be fighting against as well. But more importantly, the buffs being triggered by Inner Death, including the intrinsic skill, which raises its breath potency and also healability. But the breath potency on top of it. As I say, this unit can really snowball a battle in itself, especially with units that are weak in Whoosh. Just remember, Whoosh Force, 20%. Breath potency itself, 20%, if you're going to focus on that. Maybe you use another one, but we're just going to give an example. Then intrinsic skill, raising breath potency even more. And you're starting to see this unit can really just pile on the damage. And then if the boss is weak against Whoosh, and especially in PvE, and you trigger even more of a reduction in Whoosh, Jamirus is going to be... so there's been other units in the game where it's like very, very specific on one element. Jamirus is very specific on Whoosh. If the enemy is weak to Whoosh, even if it's got a massive amount of hit points, Jamirus will be able to do massive amounts of damage in general to that. So very, very specific, very, very good in that regards. The cons are the HP and defense are quite low. Normally when they're very specific, like we've had Barbarius, which is Sam. This is not a con here because Jamirus, which if you put Sweet Breath or Paralyzing Breath, can do a lot of other stuff along with Accelerate. So it is not a con that is so specific in Whoosh, unlike a lot of other units potentially can be. So all in all, it's pretty good. Will I pull? Actually, sorry, the First Awakening is very powerful and interesting. It's not for a control trick. It's a very good overall improvement. It is one. It's a 2-trick pony, but it's a very, very good unit, but not with the units coming out. Now, what's a little frustrating here is I really do want Mythsteed. So this might be a unit that I might have to pony up for an A ticket for. And the reason is, honestly, I would love it to... I'm not going to pull very hard, but I'd love to get this to Awakening 3. But first, just going through this. Magic Barrier greatly raises one ally spell resistance. Let's just say that I would really, really, really love to have this so that I could put this on a unit. Claria would be taken out, and I would be putting my Mythsteed in instead. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to have a really scary team put together. A Benevolent Beam is a very good healing skill, especially with its Wisdom 398. And Thunderhorn does some pretty good zap spell damage to one enemy as well. And so that it does have the ability to actually do some damage. The HP and defense are pretty low, though. Agility is okay. It has good movement as well. And so you just need to be careful. You want to make sure that it is set to heal only and just keep everything around and stay back. You don't want it to attack very much. But its First Awakening reduces its damage for 15% by 3 turns. That really helps with the HP and defense. But the third one here can cure paralyzed from another enemy if within 1 to 3 spaces. It has 4 uses total. So with Mythsteed, using that to protect against a unit that has even weakness or not even weakness, just average with paralyzed, can help keep units from being paralyzed in general. And all of a sudden, Mythsteed is actually a unit that you're going to want to focus in on, especially if you need to, say, paralyze a Mandragora or Sorrow or whatever. It is not strong or weak to paralyze, so it can be paralyzed as well. But I would rather make sure that you have to focus in on Mythsteed. It gives you one more turn, or it makes someone else have to get another paralyzer as well to counteract your team. That is incredibly important. And personally, I think it's the biggest skill here. Raises Zapdos spell's potency by 10%. It's pretty good for an A unit, to be honest. But as I say, I would love to be able to get a third paralyze there. And honestly, I might pull a little bit more on this banner, more for the A unit for Mythsteed than just trying to get Jamirus. I do want Jamirus because of the whoosh potency overall, but this is a very interesting unit that I would be willing to spend my resources on to get to the third at the very least. Maybe even to 5 hearts, depending on how lucky I am with the A unit, which is always a mixed bag in my guards here. But a very, very, very good A unit. It's very specific, but because it has a lot of uses in PvP, it is a very good A unit. So I hope you guys enjoy. Good luck, and be tricky.